IPMNation.com.
IPM Nation presents Angry Drunk Tales.
Be angry. Me write angry emails.
Episode 7. I don't mean to be an asshole. Welcome to episode 7 of Angry Drunk Tales. I'm Matt Connerton.
And I'm Jen Coffey, his co-host.
We are at the Uptown Auto Repair Studio in Manchester, New Hampshire.
And we are powered by the Atlas Society at atlassociety.org.
And when we last left off, there was a seemingly a resolution to
Napoleon Bonaparte
was in fact going to be turning over the lease to
Jack off.
He had agreed to that after I intervened. But then there was all this question about
Napoleon Bonaparte
coming and getting his stuff. Meanwhile, on June 7th, we received an email from
Jack off.
Now, this email is very important because it's unlike the other emails that we read on this show. Thus far, in the episodes that we've done dramatic readings of the very hateful, angry, drunken, vitriolic emails that
Jack off
was sending to
Napoleon Bonaparte.
And eventually in the series, and not too long from now, we'll get to the ones that he sent to us and continues to this day to send to us. And if you're late to the series, please go back and listen to the previous episodes. But the whole point of this show is that
Jack off
his emails to Jen and I, his former roommates, as well as
Napoleon Bonaparte,
also a former roommate, are so fascinatingly twisted and strange and long and bizarre that we just want to share them with the world. They're very entertaining when you're not on the receiving end of them. I mean, granted, we are still on the receiving end of them, but now that we're not living under the same roof with this drunken lunatic, it's very entertaining.
So living under our own roof that we control and no one can ever hold over our heads has most definitely made these far more entertaining than they ever were before.
Yes.
If you happen to hear this, feel free. You were only around the 10 side last night, and I know that you've had nights of 15 or more, so feel free.
Now, there's an important bit of a story arc here. So, as we're winding down with
Napoleon Bonaparte,
there's still a little bit of back and forth with
Napoleon Bonaparte
to go, but not too much. Most of it's regarding his stuff. The issue with the lease was settled at this point. And, of course, at this point also,
Jack off
was still very fond of his relatively new roommates. Well, Jen and I being relatively new roommates, and of course Angela being a very new roommate.
We moved in January 1st.
In January, yep.
Yep.
And Angela moved in May 1st.
And Angela moved in May 1st. So at this point, we've been living together approximately 6 months. 5 to 6 months.
No, you're right. Yeah, about 6 months.
So I wouldn't call that necessarily relatively new. Angela was relatively new.
Yeah, you're right.
She'd only moved in from May 1st. But we, at this point in the reading you're about to give of
Jack off
his email, which is dated what?
June 7th.
Yeah, June 7th. So at this point, we have lived with him for 6 months.
And we're getting along very well with him. We were like a little family. I think he even uses that phrase at one point.
And he would actually, come to me if he had a question on something that was medically related, knowing my background.
Yes. So we were all getting along great. And this will all be relevant later. And you'll understand why later in the series when we get to the hate. But first, on June 7th, he sent a very short email about the movie Idiocracy, which that becomes very important later on in the story. But he was always, there were actually a number of different movies and television shows that
Jack off.
was always encouraging us to see, but especially Idiocracy. He was really dying for us to see Idiocracy, which we did eventually watch with him, and that shows up later in the story. And by the way, great movie. I expected I would like it because everyone had always told me that when I finally saw it, that I would absolutely love it, and I did.
Yeah,
I did.
yeah, it was
fantastic.
It was a really great movie. I was glad we watched it.
I don't think I'd laughed that hard in years, actually. So loved it.
It was definitely a go to the bathroom before you watch it movie.
Yes. But so he had been pushing that. So this is I'm sorry. This is actually June 8th. So first, just a short email. Idiocracy was on last night, and the two of you, more than anyone I've ever met, I know would love this movie. And parentheses, he wrote, I've heard your shows, because he would listen to the radio show. The movie is not really about 500 years in the future. It's about here and now and how stupid people have become. Trust me, you'll love it. Because
Jack off.
he seemed to really respect our intellect, even though he may disagree with us politically on some things. He seemed to think that we were smart people, and I always got the impression.
There were a lot of things politically that I think he was surprised that we actually agreed on,
right?
Because he thought that I guess he had a misconception that we were both uber right wing, fall off the radar folks.
Yeah, I get called a liberal all the time, even though I'm not.
Well, you're a registered Democrat.
I am.
It's true.
Which
Jack off.
seems to forget, which that comes up later on in the story.
Yeah. And he also seems to forget that I was one of the key players in preventing the reversal of gay marriage in the state of New Hampshire. But, again, I digress. No, I'm not a fall off the map right wing.
No, not at all.
Nut. I consider, and this was something that we all agreed on, which was that each individual, at this point, each individual has the right to live their life the way that they so choose, so long as they're not stepping on the liberty of another, and how important it was to be respectful of other people, of other cultures. And it was something that we shared prior to this email being sent, that we all were on the same page of, including Angela and including Jesse.
Well, here is
Jack off.
Ed's email to us that was just very lovey-dovey and happy.
Unexpected. Very unexpected.
Yeah. Here's what he said. And by the way, this was after your son Jesse had come to stay with us to sleep on the couch for the summer during his internship with IPM Nation. So this is what
Jack off.
wrote. By the way, I don't mind Jesse being here at all, and I am 100% okay with him staying weekends when he goes back to school. I think I explained before where I might end up having issues if he ends up living here permanently type thing. He's a good kid, but a fifth person means more electric, more gas, and all else as well, and I'm quite happy with the progress of cleaning that room up. In fact, it was never him or you that really bothered me about the situation anyways. It was the needless confusion created by
Napoleon Bonaparte.
this crap and the stacks of boxes we had out there while he played his games. I want to live in a place, finally, where I can be proud to have friends over and such and live once again in the way I did 10 years ago. I lived in so many shitholes for the last 8 years. I would just like to live normally once again and be happy to get home when I leave and such. This is important to me. I have lived in so many rooming houses, boarding houses, and hostels over the last 8 years, not to even mention tents, lean-tos, and homeless shelters when things got too cold. I want to be able to enjoy an entire apartment. I don't mean to be an asshole when I talk about clutter and such. It's just, at this point, with me taking over the lease and such, I finally saw an opportunity to once again have a real life and such. And as I don't drive my home is very important to me. I'm 45. I don't really want to keep living like a 25-year-old refugee. I hope you can understand this. And it's kind of important to me now. I want to have a real adult life again. I want to get back to things I want to get back the things I have had stolen before. This is why I have been so patient with that,
Napoleon Bonaparte.
by the way. I really don't want to throw his shit out, because I have had that happen to me before with a lot less warning and such. I have had to start over in my life at least 8 times. At this point, I am tired of starting over. At this point, I want to consider a future and stuff. For my entire life, I have basically felt like I was 20-something. I am just now starting to feel like a real adult, and I want to live like a real adult finally. I don't think that's asking a lot. I want a nice home and not worry about losing it and such. Now that I am in a place where I am no longer really ever worried about money and such, I just want pretty much what most any person my age wants. By the way, I like having roommates, and right now I have 3 of the best roommates I have ever had. I almost need roommates, in fact, because I get very dark without them. I have lived with Tim and or his family like 7 times over 20 years. They are good roommates. I talk with you because I like you, and because it clears my mind and such. Over time, I think you will find, like me and Tim and his family, that we all become much more than just roommates or even friends. Tim and me both refer to each other as brothers. We look out for each other as such as well. And as we are 2 grown men, Wap end each conversation saying, "I love you, brother." I think we all here can have a similar relationship given time. Yes, I admit when we were moving your stuff, I was a bit worried. It was a lot for me to handle too, by the way. Believe it or not, I don't handle change or pressure or stuff too well either. In fact, when I feel it pushed on me, I get a bit out of whack. Even Jesse, by the way, but now I do think a lot of him. It was just a lot to handle initially and such. Change is a difficult thing for me. Even all this
Napoleon Bonaparte.
stuff affects me a lot more than you might think. I like deadlines and certainties and such. I don't like things being left up in the air and stuff. I don't think I am unreasonable in this, though. I think I have been as accommodating as any person could ever be as far as
Napoleon Bonaparte.
is concerned. But I am reaching a breaking point emotionally with all that crap, and I do not want it to keep going on. So I am determined that one way or another, it has to end this week. So at this point, if Matt or anyone else says anything to
Napoleon Bonaparte.
all they need to say is,
Jack off.
has the lease and has made his decision. You would have had every opportunity and leave it at that. Yes, I do still want to clean out that storage area, but at this point that's more for the people who actually live here. So Matt has some room to store stuff. So I have room for my bigger tools and stuff, etc., etc., etc. Honestly, I have a goal. To live like real adults live. I said it in April. The shit with
Napoleon Bonaparte.
will not end until all of his shit is gone from this place, and even then I'm not sure it will end. But getting rid of his shit will be a decent start. Why I chose to buy a microwave and not depend on him leaving his. I just want his shit gone, one way or another at this point. That desktop PC, to most people, by the way, is worth $25 now, the cost of the power supply. The only thing that it still has any value is the power supply. I just want that dude out of my life as soon as possible, so I am asking everyone to basically not promise to or say anything except what I have already stated about getting his shit or losing it. That was meant for you, by the way, Matt. I know you made things smooth for a while, but now it's beyond that. Now it's time for
Napoleon Bonaparte.
to put up or shut up. Now is the time. We should be done with him. So if he contacts you, don't promise a damn thing, simply because he will never keep his word anyways. Saying anything other than what I already said to him will basically just serve to allow him to stretch this out further. I already know he has no intention of getting his shit, but he would love the opportunity to stretch things out over and over. So do not give him the opportunity. His cutoff date is there now. Okay? And scene. Tons of foreshadowing in that email.
But he loves
Tons.
you
I know.
like
He's-
a brother.
I know. He's talking about, he's
And he cares for Jesse.
it's very lovey-dovey, but under that there's a lot of foreshadowing in that email.
There is. And now we can look back and see it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Interestingly, too, to note that the stuff he talks about and how he was concerned but was no longer concerned was an event that I had a home that I owned, and I was vacating it, and I invited
Jack off.
to come there with us for the sole purpose of pointing out anything that he thought would be useful for the apartment. And he picked out certain items, and some that were surprising to me, actually, that he thought he wanted for the apartment because he had plans. And those plans included a rumpus room, which we haven't even really touched on much yet, but we'll get to that in future episodes.
Yes. So we will conclude episode 7 with that. But in episode 8... we will finish up with
Napoleon Bonaparte.
his involvement. We have in episode 8 a lot of brief, but many relatively brief exchanges between
Napoleon Bonaparte.
and
Jack off.
that are brief but get pretty intense and threatening. So that will be in episode 8. We'll get all of that done, and then in episode 9, that is when the shit hits the fan with the rest of us. So I can't believe we're actually almost to that point.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So we're almost ready to say goodbye to Alex. And you have to ask yourself,
If you have roommates, do they send you emails? Good night.
night.
The
Jack off.
Chronicles.
IPMNation.com.